At 61, Michelle Pfeiffer isn't talking about fame, fortune, or the silver screen. Instead, she reflects on five remarkable young souls whose lives have been forever changed, not by chance, but by the quiet kindness of a woman who never stopped believing in others. It's not the spotlight that defines her legacy, but the warmth she brings behind it, the gentle encouragement, the quiet words, the unwavering belief that everyone deserves to shine. She once said, "I don't just want to be admired, I want to make people believe they can shine too." And she has, from Dakota and Elle Fanning to Florence Pugh, Thaddea Graham, and Greg Kinnear. Each carries a spark of Michelle's compassion and strength within them. Here are the five people whose lives were touched by Michelle Pfeiffer, through her kindness, her faith in them, and her heart that never stopped giving. Number 5, Dakota Fanning. The first name Michelle Pfeiffer mentions is one that always brings a soft light to her eyes, Dakota Fanning. When Michelle first met Dakota on the set of The First Lady, she saw more than a talented young actress. She saw herself, decades younger, a woman with quiet fire, discipline, and a love for storytelling that refused to fade. At the time, Dakota was navigating that difficult bridge between child stardom and adult artistry. Hollywood can be cruel to those who grow up in front of cameras, and Michelle knew that better than anyone. So instead of offering advice, she offered presence. Pfeiffer would linger after her own scenes, standing quietly behind the monitors to watch Dakota work. Sometimes a gentle nod or an approving smile was all it took. Dakota once said, "Michelle never lectured me. She led by example, through grace, through patience." During one particularly exhausting shoot, Dakota admitted she was questioning her choices. Michelle listened, then said softly, "It's okay to be unsure. What matters is that you keep showing up. That's how you find your truth again." Those words stayed with Dakota. Years later, when she stood beside Michelle at her Hollywood handprint ceremony, she called her not just a colleague, but a guiding spirit. The two embraced, and for a brief moment, it was as if two generations of Hollywood's finest shared one heartbeat, the mentor and the muse, bound by kindness. Today, Dakota credits Michelle as one of the reasons she's still in love with acting. "She reminded me," Dakota reflected, "that kindness doesn't make you soft, it makes you strong." Number 4, Elle Fanning. If Dakota represents Michelle's quiet strength, then Elle Fanning reflects her sense of wonder, that rare ability to keep one's heart open in a world that often hardens it. When Michelle first met Elle, she saw a young actress glowing with curiosity and courage, someone who could turn fragility into power. Their paths crossed again and again at film events and award ceremonies. Each time, there was genuine warmth, not the polite distance of Hollywood, but the affection of two artists who recognized something kindred in each other. When Elle was still finding her footing as a leading woman, Michelle pulled her aside one evening at a charity gala and said, "The camera doesn't love perfection, Elle, it loves truth. Don't be afraid to be seen as you are." That simple phrase became a mantra for Elle. In interviews, she would later recall how Michelle's words helped her strip away the need to please and instead perform from the heart. "She taught me that vulnerability is not weakness," Elle said. "It's the most beautiful thing an actor can give." In 2025, both sisters, Elle and Dakota, stood by Michelle's side at her Hollywood hand and footprint ceremony. It wasn't just a photo opportunity, it was a full circle moment. The woman who once inspired them from the screen was now being honored for a lifetime of artistry and kindness, and they were there, hand in hand, celebrating the person who had taught them what grace truly looks like. Michelle looked at them that day with the pride of someone who had watched two seeds grow into wildflowers. She didn't take credit. She never does. But when Elle thanked her publicly, saying, "You showed us how to shine without losing ourselves," Michelle's eyes softened. She whispered, "You already had the light. I just reminded you where it was." And that is Michelle Pfeiffer's magic, the ability to reflect others' brilliance back to them until they see it too. Number 3, Florence Pugh. Among the new generation of Hollywood, few shine with the fearless energy of Florence Pugh. To Michelle Pfeiffer, Florence is a reminder that authenticity is the new form of rebellion, a quality Michelle has carried throughout her own career. The two women first met at an award ceremony where Florence, already an admirer, approached Michelle with the awe of a student meeting her hero. I grew up watching the fabulous Baker Boys and Dangerous Liaisons, Florence confessed that night. You made me believe that strength could be soft, that a woman could own every part of herself. Michelle smiled, touched by the honesty. She replied, "Then promise me you'll never let Hollywood tell you who to be." That sentence lingered in Florence's heart. When she later faced criticism for her bold fashion choices or her unfiltered social media posts, she often remembered Michelle's quiet words, a reminder that integrity mattered more than approval. The two met again a year later at the Vanity Fair Oscar party, where photographers captured them in laughter, hands intertwined. To many, it was just another glamorous moment. To Florence, it was a meeting between generations, the torch passing quietly from one truth-teller to another. Michelle admired Florence's courage. "She doesn't hide behind characters," Michelle once said in an interview. "She lets her raw humanity lead. That's what makes her unforgettable." Coming from someone who has built a career on emotional honesty, those words meant everything. Florence later shared that Michelle's mentorship was not formal. There were no acting lessons, no scripts exchanged. It was presence. It was permission. "Michelle gave me something better than advice," Florence explained. "She gave me peace about who I am." In a world obsessed with reinvention, Michelle Pfeiffer helped Florence Pugh understand that staying true to herself was the most radical act of all. Number 2, Thaddea Graham. When Michelle Pfeiffer met Thaddea Graham on the set of Margot's Got Money Troubles, she immediately sensed a spark, the same blend of uncertainty and courage that she once carried as a young actress trying to find her place in a vast, glittering industry. Thaddea, a rising talent of mixed heritage and fierce determination, had admired Michelle long before they met. "I used to study her scenes frame by frame," Thaddea admitted in an interview. "She made emotion look effortless." On their first day together, Thaddea arrived early, nervous but ready. Michelle noticed the tension in her shoulders and simply said, "Let's breathe. Acting isn't about control, it's about surrender." That single phrase changed the rhythm of the day. Thaddea later said it felt as though Michelle had given her permission to be imperfect, to explore, to stumble, to feel. Throughout filming, Michelle treated her not as a newcomer, but as an equal. She invited Thaddea to watch playback with her, discussed character motivation, and even shared small stories from her early days in Hollywood, the rejections, the insecurities, the quiet victories that no one saw. "She didn't talk like a legend," Thaddea recalled. "She talked like a friend who wanted me to believe in myself." When the film wrapped, Thaddea posted a photo with Michelle, captioning it, "You meet people who teach you the craft, and then there are people who teach you courage. Michelle did both." That post went viral, not because of its glamour, but because of the truth in her words. For Michelle, mentoring Thaddea wasn't about legacy or image, it was about paying forward what others once gave her: trust, patience, and a belief that kindness could coexist with ambition. Watching Thaddea step confidently into her own light, Michelle said softly to a friend, "She doesn't need my guidance anymore, she's already flying." And in that moment, the circle of artistry, some from one soul to another, quietly completed itself. Number 1, Greg Kinnear. The final name Michelle Pfeiffer mentions often surprises people: Greg Kinnear. Though not as young as her other mentees, Greg represents something deeper: the spirit of collaboration and the humility that defines Michelle's work. When they first met on the set of Margot's Got Money Troubles, Greg was stepping into a role that demanded both vulnerability and restraint, qualities Michelle understood better than anyone. On their first day of rehearsal, Greg confessed to her, half joking, "I feel like a rookie standing next to you." Michelle laughed, then replied gently, "That's the beauty of it, and if you stop feeling like a rookie, you stop learning." It was the kind of wisdom she carried not as a lecture, but as lived truth. From that moment, an unspoken friendship grew between them, two artists from different generations finding common ground in humility. Michelle's kindness extended beyond the set. When Greg was struggling with a scene, she didn't offer corrections. She simply asked, "What's the heartbeat of this moment for you?" That question shifted everything. It helped him stop thinking about performance and start feeling again. Later, in an interview, Greg would say, Working with Michelle reminded me that acting isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. Their connection became a quiet example of how mentorship isn't always between the old and the young. Sometimes it's between two equals who push each other to rediscover their truth. During press interviews, Greg often credited Michelle as the calm in the chaos, the kind of co-star who steadies the energy of everyone around her. At the film's premiere, Greg stood beside her, smiling. "You can tell when someone loves what they do," he said. "Michelle doesn't just act, she lifts the whole room." She responded with her characteristic humility. "We just did what artists are supposed to do, make each other better." And that is perhaps Michelle Pfeiffer's greatest gift. Not her beauty, not her fame, but her ability to elevate those around her, turning every collaboration into a mirror that reflects the best in others. 5 names, 5 stories. Each one different in path, but united by the same invisible thread. The quiet grace of Michelle Pfeiffer. From Dakota's quiet resilience to Elle's luminous authenticity, from Florence's fearless honesty to Thaddea's newfound confidence and Greg's rediscovered truth, each carries within them a fragment of Michelle's heart. She has never called herself a mentor. She never sought to shape others in her image. Instead, she offered something rarer, space. The space to grow, to fail, to believe again. Those who have worked with her often describe the same feeling, that when Michelle is near, you somehow become the best version of yourself. Off-screen, she avoids attention. No grand speeches, no proclamations. Just a steady presence, a glance of encouragement, a word that arrives at the right moment, a kindness no one else sees. In an industry built on spotlight, she remains content in the glow she reflects onto others. Today, at 61, Michelle Pfeiffer's legacy is more than her iconic roles or timeless beauty. It's the ripple of humanity she leaves behind, a legacy written not in awards, but in the lives she's touched. Because perhaps the truest measure of greatness is not how brightly one shines alone, but how much light one brings to others. And Michelle Pfeiffer, quietly, gracefully, endlessly, has been doing just that.